matrix for enhanced chemical stability. However, this has a drawback, and the disadvantage would be that lipid recrystallization can cause drug expulsion during storage. So how do we combat this problem? We add liquid lipid onto the solid lipid to actually create the imperfect lipid matrix. And because of the imperfect lipid matrix, we get better stability in the long term and also greater drug loading capacity. And that is the difference between SLN and NLC. So there are a lot of possible combinations that we can use for solid lipid and liquid lipid, as long as, of course, it can be in the form of solid and liquid lipid in ambient conditions. But of course, they always have, and of course, not just lipid, but also the other components of the drug delivery system. They have to be generally recognized as safe. So they are biocompatible within the body and they won't cause unnecessary toxicity. Anyway, moving on. The solid lipid can be composed out of beeswax because this has a high melting temperature of 65 degrees Celsius. As you can see, the structures are predominantly in the esters and myristic acid, a free fatty acid form, which they can stack easily on each other. Next is the liquid lipid component. Sesame oil is a safe component that we can use for liquid lipid. It has a low melting point, as you can see, rationalized by the double bond kinks that we have there. Then after the lipid matrix, we also have the interface and surface components. We have the Poloxamer 188. This is the polymer that we can use for the surfactant. And why does it act like a surfactant? Because of its alternating hydrophilic and hydrophobic characteristics of its PEO and PPO moieties, respectively. In this polymer, there is the PEO, PPO, and PEO triblock copolymer. And because of this, of course, we can use it as a surfactant. Next, we have to surface modify our NLC system. I will explain more later why this would be relevant. But anyway, polydiallyl dimethyl ammonium chloride can be used, or PDMEC, can be used as our surface modifier simply because of its positive charge in the pyrrolidinium moiety, which is pH independent. So we have this maintained pH independent cationic charge regardless of where we can place our nanoparticles in. Moving on, menadione is a family of vitamin K3, and this can be our drug, and this can be a candidate drug for cancer growth, to impede cancer growth and proliferation with Fenton or Fenton-like reaction. This one is a future-related study anyway, but at least for our goals in this preliminary stages, we need to localize and target specifically the cancer cells within the human body. Because of course, drug delivery is essentially that. We need a certain drug and we just need to localize it in its intended target. We cannot have its bioavailability and biodistribution elsewhere. And that is what we are trying to solve using this lipid-soluble drug. As I earlier mentioned, surface modification is also something that we can do using NLCs. Why so? So, I have mentioned earlier we have used PDMAC, and that is because of the positive charge of the pyrrolidinium moiety earlier I have mentioned. So, because of this, we can couple it with something that's negatively charged, which is a future study, by the way, a future-related study. We can couple it with a negatively charged module, and we can finally attain final surface, outer surface charge of negative. And because of this, this can have mucopenetrative properties, which we need for targeting cancerous gastric cells, because of course gastric cells are negatively charged in its surface because of the biology of gastric cells in general. So the objective would be to synthesize, optimize, and characterize drug-loaded NLCs, and the drug being menadione, of course. This would be the proposed nanostructure of the nanostructured lipid carrier. This one, these two are the lipid component for the lipid matrix. The drug would be menadione, and the interface and surface components would be Poloxamer 188, our surfactant, and PDMEC, and our surface modifying overcoat. So the methodology starts with NLC synthesis. First, we have to melt the polar and the non-polar components separately. And we have to melt them at 75 degrees Celsius, which is 10 degrees Celsius higher than the melting point of the solid lipid component. This is to ensure that we have a melt form of both separate solutions. And after we have achieved just that, we can now mix the two separate solutions, the both oleaginous and the polar solutions together. And once we have mixed them with constant stirring for 10 minutes and 75 degrees Celsius, immediately we have to place it in the probe ultrasonication machine for 50% amplitude and for 10 minutes without any pulse. This is so we can create. This is how we can create the droplets during the melt stage, and the droplets are in the specific form or the specific shape that we want, which is sub 200 nanometers size. Anyway, once we have created the droplets already, we have to place them right away in the ice bath. And this is so we can lock in the structure of the final NLC form that we want. And so we can also avoid further recrystallization into far more stable forms of the lipid matrix. Let's recall that we need not so perfect form of the lipid matrix, because of course that would not be good for drug loading capacity. So we just want that imperfect form of our lipid matrix. And how to do so? We quench it right away with, we quench the recrystallization kinetics right away using the cold solution here, or ice bath solution here. Then finally, we just top up our NLC solution to the appropriate volume so we can get the final NLC or the final drug-loaded NLC solution. And of course, store it in the vial. Then we do DLS and ELS measurements. Although we have to first dilute this with a dilution factor of 2000, so we can get the mean size, PDI, and zeta potential. This one was just in the old building of chemistry, and this one is in Malaysia Palm Oil Board. Lyophilization step would be important for the later FTIR and DSC analysis. Of course, we need them in a dry state. So for 72 hours, the NLC solutions subject for further FTIR and DSC analysis was placed in the freeze dryer for 72 hours. Finally, we get the FTIR spectra. This is pretty straightforward. In first floor, we have the attenuated total reflectance FTIR type there. And we can get the IR spectra from that, then generate the necessary graphs that we need using Microsoft Excel. Similarly, in first floor, we also have the DSC. Then at least 4 milligrams of sample was placed in the aluminum pan, and the settings would be 10 degrees Celsius per minute of scan rate from 25 degrees to 200 degrees Celsius. This would be enough to cover the necessary thermogram data that we need and to generate the thermogram that we need. Oh, by the way, I forgot. This was done, of course, in nitrogen gas environment. Then we also get this in TEM, the transmission electron microscopy. So a small drop of the NLC solution was allowed to air dry in the copper hexagonal mesh grid for 72 hours and was stained with 1% phosphotungstic acid stain. And this was viewed in the medical faculty, in Faculty of Medicine. And of course, the JPG file was exported for our analysis later on. Then we can get the encapsulation efficiency of the drug-loaded NLC. First, we have to separate the unencapsulated forms of the drug though, and we can do so by simple centrifugation at, I'm sorry, I haven't put, 15,000 RPM. And we just take the supernatant, and that would show us the unencapsulated drug content. And we have done so using UV-Vis, which by the way got good R squared for the analytical chemists out there. So for the UV-Vis interpolation, we can do it using a lambda max value of 340 nanometers. Finally, we can get the encapsulation efficiency and drug loading capacity, which shows us how, to summarize these two, which shows us how compatible our drug is inside the lipid matrix. So this is how we get our EE and our DL respectively. So we tried to optimize, of course, the NLC solutions because it has lots of components in the workflow, such as concentration of the components. And one of the components that we try to tweak, of course, is the Pollock-Sumner concentration. As you can see here, the mean size tends to increase as we decrease the Pollock-Sumner concentration. By the way, this component, mean size and PDI, we would like to minimize it in this context. And the zeta potential, we would like to keep it greater than 20 or 30, so we can get a stable colloid suspension. Anyway, so we can see here that decreasing the Pollock-Sumner concentration increases or would undermine the good quality of the NLC solution. So this is likely because of insufficient coverage of the NLC colloid. So of course we need enough coverage of the stabilizing surfactant, which is our Pollock-Sumner. Next, the total lipid concentration seems to also show that increasing the said component would also increase the mean size. This is likely because we have a more viscous melt, and because of a more viscous melt during the sonication process, we can get larger particles. So this one is not ideal compared to the 5% one. And however, the zeta potential is quite fair, has at least 20 millivolts. As for the solid lipid to liquid lipid ratio at 5% total lipid component, we can see here that it's very clear here though that increasing the solid lipid content does also increase the mean size. As I've said earlier again, the viscosity likely plays a huge role in this. So a more viscous melt because of a more viscous solid lipid component, then we can get larger sizes for that. And actually this is the reason why NLCs can be quite tweakable in terms of its size, because of course we can tweak the solid lipid content and total lipid content, which is theoretically and also practically from related papers is also very prevalent. Next, the overcoat, the PDMAC, the positively charged overcoat. We can see here that there's a sweet spot between 0.2 and 0.4% concentration. And we can see here that, of course, both extremes tend to give unfavorable results. So, and it is also confirmed here that using no overcoat, we can get a negative zeta potential. But using an overcoat switches the charge to a positive 25 zeta potential, the outer interfacial surface. So we just have confirmed that indeed PDMAC overcoats the entire thing. And of course we get sufficient zeta potential for colloidal stability. I have mentioned earlier that SLN does not contain any liquid component. And we can see here that it likely also has an effect on the mean size and the PDI as well as the zeta potential. I want to invite your attention here because of course it is very clear that adding the drug to the system would increase the size slightly, which is of course expected because you're adding more stuff inside the particles. But we can see here that using SLN alone, no liquid, so this alone is only solid and only solid, also increases the mean size as well, which is of course likely explained because of viscosity, similar to what I've mentioned earlier in the other optimization results. And you can see here that the EE and the DL may also be different, although maybe probably more trials can be seen here, so we can have better conclusions. As well as the zeta potential, there may be some differences, so this can be probed into better. So the optimized NLC, the bare drug without the drug yet, we have chosen this specific formulation, which is composed of these amounts of components. As for the ultra pure water, we just add just enough, because this acts as a diluent, right? So we just add enough to get the final volume that we would need to get the specific concentration that we would need. So this formula will be used for drug encapsulation purposes. The TEM images we got confirmed that indeed there is so far no aggregation of NLCs based on TEM. As you can see here, they're separate from each other. And the size, simple pixel counting method, the size seem to parallel with the DLS on the size measurements. I would just want to say that these are the core size because this was done in a vacuum, so there's no water involved. Meanwhile, for DLS, the one that we have done earlier, that one is in the that one is in solution form. Anyway, they parallel each other. And we can see that the shape is of spherical morphology, typical of an NLC. The stability for 3 weeks, it seems to be quite stable actually. The mean size are all under 200 nanometers, and there is no drastic fluctuations in PDI and zeta potential parameters, and they are stable in short-term storage. That is our conclusion here. As for the encapsulation efficiency in drug loading, of course it would be obvious that increasing the amount that we add in the drug would increase the drug loading capacity. However, as you can see here, for the encapsulation efficiency, it shows quite a plateauing effect here. So probably there is a maximum in the amount of drug that can be sufficiently solubilized and dispersed inside the lipid matrix. And maybe there is a maximum percent of drug available there. Then for the FTIR ATR spectra, we got this, so we just have confirmed that indeed our final NLC product gets the transmittance profile from its components. And this would be the FTIR ATR spectra for the drug and the NLC separately, and as well as for the combination of both components. However, we can see here that the addition of drug does not seem to give much changes in the FTIR spectra, which is likely because we only used a small component of the drug relative to the total lipid. So its IR profile may not be detectable in this method. DSC may be better to resolve this, as you can see here. So this is one of 2 thermograms that we have. We can see here that, of course, these are the components of NLC, right? The final NLC product has a thermogram of this behavior. And this one is just the simple mixing of them, just mixing them. So we can see here that the simple mixture alone, without any fancy emulsification method, the simple mixture here will just attain the thermogram peaks or the thermogram recessions of the other components. Meanwhile, the NLC has its own recession or dip here, which is conclusive that the NLC's nanostructure is fundamentally different to that of its to the sum of its mixture alone. Furthermore, menadione is successfully dispersed in the lipid matrix. We can say that because the drug, you can see it's very crystalline here and very ordered in this form when it's alone. But once it is dispersed in the matrix, you can see that it attains only one peak. So we can say that indeed it is dispersed in the matrix. So the conclusion would be this melt emulsification and ultrasonification method, it successfully synthesized the nanoparticles that we need, and in sub 200 nanometers of size. And the NLC remains stable for at least 21 days. The 0.2 menadione content of drug is compatible with the lipid matrix that we have chosen, which is beeswax and sesame oil components. So my recommendation would be to screen for encapsulation efficiency and drug loading at higher drug concentrations. Probably use more trials for that, because as we have seen earlier, the EE parameter seems to plateau. So maybe that can be discussed more in further studies. Then we can also employ optimization models accounting for interaction effects. We can use the Box-Bangkit model, the central composite design, etc. And we can also conduct drug release kinetics, so we can see how the release of drug actually is and in what profile in a biological system. And in our language, maraming salamat. Thank you guys.